The Indian Miss World and the Rage of Muslims of the World. A novel by Dr. A. Ahmed. This story continues the story of the Arab sugar daddy and the beautiful Indian girl and the story of the Indian child bride and the old Arab husband. They were written in English and translated into Arabic by Dr. A. Ahmed. It is a love story narrated in 6 books. Book 3. From a Slum Girl to the Queen of the World Beauty. Copyright. All rights are reserved. No part of this book may be reproduced, stored in a retrieval system, or transmitted in any form or by any means without the prior written permission of the author except by a reviewer, who may quote brief passages from a review for printing in a public newspaper, general magazine, school journal, or university article. All characters in this novel are fictional and any resemblance to actual persons, living or dead, is merely coincidental. Chapter 56. Is marrying 2 wives in America halal and allowed for a Muslim? Having a love affair with 2 girlfriends at the same time may be impossible, but having a sexual relationship with 2 girls at the same time is not that difficult at all. The man who claims to love 2 women equally at the same time is a liar, whereas the man who maintains sexual relations with another woman besides his girlfriend or wife will be called a cheater. The woman who is having sexual relations with 2 men at the same time will ironically be called a whore, whereas the woman who has a love affair with 2 men at the same time is also called a bitch. Ethically speaking, having 2 love affairs or more than 1 sexual partner at the same time is considered morally wrong, and loving them equally is practically impossible, but let us not get into that. There are enough cases of polygamy and polyandry in our recent world history to make arguments in either case. As we have seen already, as soon as Rahul decided to marry an Indian girl, he ditched his American girlfriend. Quite the contrary, Uncle Jimmy was able to manage 2 wives at the same time and has maintained his relations with both for a long time. In the beginning, Jimmy was able to hide his secret love affair with his new young girlfriend from his first Muslim wife. Despite that, his first wife began to suspect that her husband had begun another love interest. First, she began to feel his passion for sex was waning. She had to do many things to stimulate him sexually and get his attention. Even then, the act of lovemaking seemed like a chore or a heavy burden to him. Jimmy made hundreds of excuses to avoid having sex with his first wife. He claimed that his first wife and he are coming along in age and hence sex is not all that important. Moreover, he claimed that they have grown-up children still at home and therefore they should be careful having sex in the house. Jimmy claimed many times that his work was making him incredibly stressed and tired, and hence he needed to have a good night's rest. He asserted that sex may destroy his vitality and render him physically incapable of doing his best during his days at work. Consequently, Jimmy, with the help of numerous excuses, began to gradually taper off his sexual activity with his first wife. It went from 3 times in 7 days to only once a week and there to once a fortnight. Eventually, their intimacy declined to only once a month, and from that point on, it became a sporadic occurrence. On the other hand, Uncle Jimmy's sexual activity with his young, beautiful girlfriend is improving day by day. A day has not passed when they have not ended up in passionate lovemaking. But love and sex are not enough for Uncle Jimmy and his small girlfriend. He is petrified that eventually his young girlfriend might forsake him one day and move on to a younger, more attractive guy when essentially she is done with him. To safeguard his new precious female acquisition, the clever Uncle Jimmy decided it was imperative to wed his young girlfriend. It can only help that she is pregnant with his child. Jimmy knows that the secular law of marriage and divorce in the USA may deprive him of his 2 young sons and give their custody to his first wife if he decides to divorce her. He wanted to keep his first wife and family, and at the same time, he wanted to marry another young woman. Simple logic dictated that to keep his sons he had to keep his first wife too. Jimmy knew that American secular law did not allow him to keep his first wife and marry another woman at the same time. Also, he understood that according to the laws of his religion, he was allowed to keep his first wife and marry another woman at the same time. Marrying 2 women at the same time is legally unacceptable under secular law, but perfectly within his Muslim Sharia law rights. Jimmy consulted the imam of his mosque about the serious dilemma he was facing in his life. The imam advised him to keep his first wife and children and marry his new girlfriend. He assured him that many Muslim men did the same thing in America and other Western countries. Nonetheless, he warned him from revealing his second marriage to his first wife or anyone else. He told him he must keep it between Allah, his new wife, and himself. The imam knew that the second marriage of Uncle Jimmy was illegal in the USA and may send him and Jimmy behind bars for a long time. Therefore, the religious leader conducted the second marriage in full secrecy. He came to the apartment of the new fiancé with 2 Muslim men as witnesses. After performing the so-called halal Islamic marriage contract and paying his fees double what he asked for, the newly wedded couple took the imam and the 2 male witnesses for lunch in a beautiful Indian eatery. After lunch, Jimmy and his young bride stayed for 3 days in a 5-star hotel and celebrated their honeymoon. After getting married, Uncle Jimmy became aware that he had married one of the richest girls in the world, or at least in the country of India. His new bride had not informed him about her great fortune until he married her. As soon as they got married, she revealed her great treasure and promised to enjoy it all with him and their yet-to-be-born daughter. She decided to buy her own house, car, and many luxurious items. Her handsome husband Jimmy has become well pleased with her great wealth and extreme beauty, to say the least. After that, the happy couple began to dwell in a palace made of silver and gold. They enjoy every minute and every day of their married life together. After revealing her great treasure to him, the second Muslim wife prevented her husband from working as a cab driver. She made up for his lack of work by transferring a lump sum each month into his bank account to give to his first Muslim wife and their children. She made him lie to his first wife and say that he is still driving his taxi and taking on more hours to make extra money. The result is that Jimmy and his second wife are now living a life of moneyed leisure. Their happiness and enjoyment continued until their first child was born. Jimmy's second wife delivered a baby girl, and she named her after her biological mother, Rayhana. The second wife has not seen her Muslim mother for many years. The last time she saw her mother was when she was a little girl of only 7 years old in Saudi Arabia. Things may go like this for the 2 happy lovers for quite a long time or forever. They inadvertently made a small mistake when registering the female child's birth at the hospital. Both parents entered their addresses. The father used the address on his driver's license, and the mother gave the hospital her new palace address. Jimmy's address happened to be the home of his first Muslim wife. For a man to have a love affair and make his girlfriend pregnant while having another wife is not an issue for American policy and procedures. It is not a crime and a normal occurrence in the USA. In America, a girl can conceive and deliver a baby while she is still unmarried and still living in her parents' house. In the Middle East and some Muslim countries, such a girl will be slain by her family in an honor killing before her baby is born. If she is not killed, she will run away from home, deliver her illegal baby in a brothel house, and remain a prostitute forever. Anyway, the problem for the 2 happy lovers started when the State Department of Vital Records sent copies of the birth certificate of the baby daughter to both addresses listed on the application of the birth. One copy of the female baby's birth certificate went to the mother's address, and another copy was sent to the father's address. Jimmy's first wife does not know that her husband has cheated on her and secretly married another young woman until the birth certificate of the newborn female baby infant arrives at her house. The baby girl's birth certificate also listed the details of her mother's name and address. Through that unintentional mistake, the first wife learned of her husband's indiscretion, having cheated on her with another young woman listed on the certificate as his wife. The second wife was named in the certificate as Aphrodite Krishna Khan and 20 years younger than her husband. She could not believe her eyes staring at the information in her hands. She fell to the floor and began crying like a small girl who lost her father. She had never expected her loving husband would cheat on her after they lived together for so many years and had children together. What troubled her more is that she thought her Muslim husband had married a Hindu girl, which is illegal for the man to do in Islam. The 2 names of the second wife, Aphrodite and Krishna, convinced the first wife that the second wife could not be a Muslim girl. She knows that no Muslim Indian family can ever give their daughter a Christian name or Hindu name. She reasoned out that the second wife's last name, Khan, is the result of her marriage to her husband, Jamal Khan. The birth certificate provided much information about the second wife, like her hair color, nationality, and eye color, which can have described the first wife as well, only a younger version. Yet, still, it does not reveal whether she is a beautiful woman like her or an ugly Hindu girl. Her husband Jamal Khan used to always say to her and in front of others that he had married the most beautiful woman in the whole world. Notwithstanding, for over a year, she realized that he stopped praising her beauty and was not interested in having sex with her. The same day the first wife came to know about the second marriage of her unfaithful husband, she confronted him and they had a big fight. At first, she threatened to take him to court if he did not divorce his second Muslim wife and cut off his relationship with her. When after her ultimatum, he continued in his indecisiveness, she decided to divorce him and sue for custody of the children. However, before making such a crucial decision, she consulted some elders in her Muslim community, including the top clerics in the mosque. The imam rebuked her and told her that if she divorced her husband for having a second wife, she would be violating the laws of the Holy Quran and the blessed Sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad. He is the same imam who advised Jamal Khan to have a second wife and conducted his marriage. He informed the first wife that the second wife is a Muslim too, and he is the one who conducted their halal Islamic marriage. He said Islam allows the Muslim man to have 4 wives at the same time and quoted a verse from the Holy Quran to support his words. Surah Al-Nisa 4, verse 3. Moreover, he claimed he had 3 secret wives besides his first Muslim wife. Accordingly, wife number 1 found herself facing a serious problem. If she divorces her husband, she will go against her holy book, which gives man the right to have up to 4 wives at the same time. In addition, she will also go against her infallible Prophet Muhammad, who married many women at the same time. Furthermore, she will indirectly condemn her Islamic divine law and uphold the American man-made law, which forbids polygamy but allows adultery with any number of women and supports sodomy and lesbianism. The first Muslim wife changed her mind, especially when her husband appealed to her not to go through with the divorce and that he still loves her and promised to keep his relationship with his second wife to a minimum and spend most of his time with her. So, the first wife changed her mind because she learned that her religion allowed her husband to have 2 wives at the same time. She thought that she would be a loser if she divorced her husband and allowed the second wife to get her husband all the time. She is also concerned that at her age, she may not find someone else from her Muslim community to marry her. Besides that, she will be left to finish bringing up their children all alone, which will be a heavy responsibility for her. Carefully considering all the options before her, the first wife accepted her kismet for the future and all parties involved and allowed her husband to continue his so-called divinely lawful relationship with his second wife. Many Muslim women are forced by their religion and circumstances to continue living in polygamous marriages in the West. Such wives may not find other men from their Muslim community to marry them, and none of those divorced women will agree to fall in love and have a white boyfriend or marry someone who is not a Muslim. Accordingly, being confronted with the uncertainty of their situations, each one of those hapless women will prefer to have a polygamist husband rather than remain a divorcee woman all the rest of her life without a husband and sex. Chapter 57. Making beautiful plans with great expectations for the arranged marriage. The Bollywood female director Rani Krishna spent 1 year and 1 month in the women's prison at Baroda city before her final trial was convened. Her lawyer presented enough evidence to cast reasonable doubt and masterfully proved that she was innocent of the charges laid against her. He was able to show a conspiracy, and so Rani no longer has her late sister's blood on her hands. Therefore, she has been acquitted with honor. Rani neither blamed the government of India nor the police of Baroda for her 13-month incarceration. From the time she was apprehended in Berlin, Rani understood the motive behind her arrest. She knew that Dawood Ibrahim's terrorists wanted to get hold of her adopted Muslim daughter and slaughter her, which explained the malicious conspiracy against her. She jeopardized her life and went to jail for the sake of protecting her beloved daughter. For that reason, she counted spending 13 months in a rotten Indian jail as a motherly honor rather than something to be ashamed of. As soon as she was set free, the Bollywood female director traveled to Mumbai. She stayed in a small hotel. She decided not to visit any of her Bollywood friends. She remembered that when she was in jail, she had contacted many of them and begged them to bail her out, but none of them came to her aid or was prepared to support her in her hour of need. She just wants to get her immigrant visa reissued because she is very eager to travel to the USA and see her beloved daughter again. While she was spending most of her time in solitude, with her fate hanging in the balance, the only thing she missed behind bars was her daughter. She has many wonderful plans in mind for her only daughter Aphrodite Krishna Khan. First, she wants her daughter to get married to the well-educated son of her late sister, who is going to be soon a recognized medical doctor. She expected it would be an honor for her uneducated daughter to marry a medical graduate from one of the most prestigious and eminent medical schools in the world. Second, after getting her daughter settled, Rani wants to begin producing the movie Ifat Khan, which she decided to call The Child Bride and the Arab Old Husband. Third, she wants to help her daughter begin her import and export business, which was the basis for getting their American immigrant visas. Fourth, she wants to help her daughter resurrect her dream of building a shelter and charitable organization to house over 50,000 homeless and orphan street children in Mumbai. In the interest of safety, she will recommend her daughter construct the new project anonymously without letting anyone know she is the one who is spending millions of dollars on making it. After all, once bitten, twice shy. During her time of incarceration and after much contemplation, Rani resolved that her daughter must be warned she should never speak against the married life of the founder of Islam, the Prophet Muhammad, or the teachings of the Quran about Muslim women again. As a public figure, a Bollywood actress, and current Miss World, everything uttered by her will probably be misquoted out of context or be misconstrued. The last two instances in Bangalore and London had almost cost them both their lives. Rani is determined to advise her daughter to distance herself from that dangerous Arab religious cult that euphemistically called Islam the religion of peace that had cost millions of innocent people their lives. She read in reliable books of history there were approximately 270 million non-Muslims were slain by Muslim invaders during the spread of Islam through the so-called Islamic conquests or invasions. 60 million of those victims were Christians and 80 million Hindus, plus millions of raped women and uncountable numbers of enslaved children. Fifth, for a long time, ever since she adopted her Muslim daughter, Rani nurtured the idea that her daughter should officially forsake the religious faith that so far is the affliction of her existence and the justification for all her childhood abuses. She wants her daughter to forsake her family name, Khan, and take the name of her future Hindu husband, Patel. She wants her to discard the pagan name of Aphrodite, which is the name of a pagan Greek goddess, which her evil captor, Mahmud Khan, had chosen for her when he introduced her as an Iranian heroine to the Bollywood film industry. She loves to see her daughter carry the Hindu name, Pooja, and the last name, Patel. Thinking way ahead, Rani shivered at the thought of her future grandchildren bearing a last Muslim name such as Khan. Nursing and playing around with those wonderful plans, Rani Krishna spent the better part of 3 weeks in a small hotel in the Colaba area before her visa was reissued by the American consulate in Mumbai. Wasting no time, she is on the next available flight from Mumbai to London via Dubai. Arriving at the Dubai International Airport, she is acutely aware that it is an Arab city and a haven for what she considered to be the most dangerous and virulent creature ever to walk the earth after Muhammad, the notorious international terrorist ringleader, the Muslim terrorist Dawood Ibrahim. She refused to even step off the aircraft so that her feet would not be defiled by Muslim soil. She has absolutely no intention of taking a travel break on land that sheltered the mobster who killed so many innocent Indians and continued to threaten her family. She is particularly watchful of the transit passengers who boarded during their layover. She saw some Arab old men joining the flight. Ronnie shuddered to know that any one of them can potentially be exactly like the evil Saudi old man who had raped her daughter for 10 years and started abusing her from the age of 7. She wondered how any law on earth or any divinely ordained commandment from God could ever permit the right of sex perverts to abuse little underage girls. She vividly remembered a documentary where it discussed even wild beasts will not reproduce with a female of its kind that has not reached puberty. This stopover she spent in the Dubai International Airport has only cemented the fact that she despises the Arabian cult and their followers who cannot forsake these evil misogynistic laws of Islam. At Heathrow International Airport, Rani Krishna felt a rush of relief when she saw the bearded Arab men and their niqab-clad women leaving the aircraft. With any luck, she will never have to lay eyes on them again. Rani's strong character and her culture simply do not tolerate those people who have no respect for women. Rani hates with bitterness any man who strikes a woman or sexually abuses a female child. She is particularly sensitive to the abuse of little female children. Nevertheless, her short-lived relief does not last a long time. Boarding the American plane after 4 hours spent in transit in London that will fly her across the Atlantic Ocean from the UK to the USA, she discovered a plane full of black burqa women and somber-looking bearded men. From their appearance and mannerisms, she surmised that most of them were refugee Muslim travelers from Somalia, Sudan, Libya, Iraq, Syria, Pakistan, and Afghanistan. For Rani Krishna, this qualified as the single most unpleasant flight she has ever taken. Everything she saw on the flight reminded her of her daughter's plight and oppression. During her confinement, the Hindu mother filled her days and nights thinking and planning her adopted daughter's happy marriage. It is probably the only thing that kept her sane while she was in detention. All she looked forward to was being released from that less-than-humane existence and joining her adorable daughter in the United States. She does not doubt that her daughter's unmatchable beauty and also her huge financial assets make her a very desirable Indian bride to her sister's son. If Mr. Rahul Patel still agrees to marry her daughter, Rani is looking forward to the most wonderful Indian wedding ever celebrated outside Indian shores. The guests of honor should be carefully screened, security should be de rigueur, and no Muslims to be invited. It is at this stage that she no longer cared about public opinion. She is well prepared to discriminate against Muslims, men as well as women young and old to ensure the safety of her beloved daughter. The Bollywood female director has spent her first day on American soil in a beautiful hotel. The Hindu mother of Aphrodite Krishna Khan has only one address in the States to go to, the address of her sister's son, Mr. Rahul Patel, which she had obtained from a copy of his white ex-girlfriend Emily's visa at the lawyer's office. Once she arrived, she was exceedingly disappointed to learn that Rahul had moved out of his apartment many months ago. The owner of the building does not have a forwarding address for his mail and does not know where he has moved to. Not too worried, she knows that the next best place to locate him is the registrar's office at Harvard University. As Rani closed in on her sister's son's whereabouts, she is looking forward to meeting her beloved daughter after being separated from her for over a year. She still nursed fears that her daughter may still be in jail. To that end, she has had enough affidavits, certificates, and depositions to prove her innocence. The Hindu mother is certain that she will be able to convince the American FBI officials that her adopted Muslim daughter is the farthest young woman from being a female terrorist and that she is in fact a bona fide target for Muslim extremists and her name in the top of their terrorist hit list. She passionately believes that the evidence she has in hand will clear up all charges against her innocent daughter and maybe even entitle her to financial compensation and an official apology from the American FBI police. Rani is expectant and can hardly contain herself. She is just about to set into motion a chain of events that will free her daughter from the clutches of Islam that have imprisoned her for so long. She is determined not only to free her from her ugly Islamic cocoon, but also to burn her demeaning burqas and set her free from that symbol of oppression for women, forever. She enjoyed her first night in America in a beautiful hotel. The following day morning, with great expectations lighting up her face, Rani Krishna approached the prospective fiancé of her daughter at the medical college. In anticipation of the meeting, she has brought many gifts for both Rahul and Aphrodite. She cannot wait to embrace her beloved girl and knows that they will have much to tell each other, not all of which are going to be good tales to narrate since both mother and daughter got unjustly severed and imprisoned in different countries and separate continents. Chapter 58. The third captor of Aphrodite. Rani Krishna has managed to locate the new apartment address of Rahul Patel through the assistance of his medical college, but she was taken aback when he told her that he had no idea where her daughter had disappeared after her release from prison. Rani felt as if her sister's son had poured a bucket of icy cold water on her head. Rahul explained that he had searched for the missing girl Aphrodite Krishna Khan and called as many places as he could to find out where she might be. During his long and thorough search, he even used her alias name, Amrita Khan, and her Muslim birth name Ifat Khan. Despite all his meticulous searches and inquiries, he could not find any trace of her. No one of the Indians he knew in the city claimed to have seen her or knew anything about her. He said he had talked to Hindus as well as Muslims, but not a single person was able to positively identify her photo or was acquainted with her. It seemed she had left the city immediately following her release and moved to another city in the States. Even the police authority has no idea where she went or where she is staying at present. Rani Krishna began to weep bitterly at the news and realized that her daughter's trial was now many months old. She began to worry about her daughter's ability to care for herself. She is like a small female child who always needs a babysitter or an adult to take care of her. It does not help that she has a beautiful face and sexy body that can tempt a Christian priest, a holy saint, or even a Muslim mullah or the imam of the mosque. In addition, she is an heir to a huge fortune of over $100 million, which can make her a prime target for many American gangs. She is, simply put, an unwilling temptress to almost every male that fixed his eyes upon her. She can only assume that if her daughter is still alive, she must be somewhere in the city, held against her will by an unknown captor. The first thing she thought of was to lodge a missing persons report. The police will have to contend with a missing girl who has not been seen for over a year and is being held in captivity. Rani asked her sister's son to take her to the nearest police station to file a complaint against an unknown male suspect who allegedly kidnapped, imprisoned, and raped her defenseless daughter. At the police office, Rani supplied information to indicate that her missing daughter was childish and her mind was not fully developed. In her police report, she stated that her daughter's mind stopped developing due to the brutal kidnap and rape she was subjected to at an early age, which resulted in traumatizing her psychologically to a large degree. When the police checked the records of her daughter's previous detention by local authorities, the police interrogation revealed that her daughter was somewhat childish in her answers and remained confused, unable to give appropriate responses. It is for that very reason they appointed a state psychiatrist who determined that her earlier arrest might have violated the legal rights of an adult of limited mental capacity. Her daughter should have been appointed someone to be her legal representative and guardian upon these findings. As far as the law is concerned, detaining a mentally deficient girl for over a month without proper medical and psychological tests being conducted is abusive and inhumane treatment, and she should not have been held without informing the closest relative to her. Since her cousin Rahul Patel and his American girlfriend Emily, as the police claimed, had refused to act as her close relatives, then her imprisoned mother's lawyer in India should have been informed to talk to her mother and seek her advice. The Special Task Force and local FBI unit, on the other hand, should not have allowed the intellectually challenged girl to walk out of the women's jail after her release without ensuring that she was received by her guardian or any other government-appointed caretaker. Consequently, the Hindu mother Rani understood that the FBI should quite possibly be held liable for violating the civil rights of the mentally retarded Indian girl Aphrodite Krishna Khan. The Hindu mother Rani Krishna's complaint turned the city upside down. Every police precinct has been duly notified about the missing mentally retarded Muslim girl who likely has been kidnapped, raped, and murdered. Aphrodite's photo has been placed in every police station, building, storefront, government office, and mall in the city and state. Her photo has been also posted on every bus depot, railway station, and airport. All colleges and public and private school departments have been notified of their staff. It has been requested that anyone having knowledge of her should inform the authorities immediately. Her mother, Rani Krishna, offered a reward of $50,000 for anyone who would supply information about her whereabouts. After a citywide search, the FBI police were able to locate her through the hospital where she delivered her baby girl and mentioned her new address. The address revealed the newly purchased house by Aphrodite Krishna Khan herself. It has been assumed by the cops the hiding place where the young mentally handicapped girl is being held captive by an individual. That person happened to be a Muslim man. He is a cabbie who emigrated from India to the United States with his Indian wife over 11 years ago. He is still married and has 3 children with his Indian wife. He also has recently fathered a female baby through the rape of the kidnapped and detained mentally disabled girl. While the FBI agents discovered the place where the intellectually challenged girl is being kept, they are cautious in staking out the residence to rescue the young girl so as not to alert her dangerous captor. They are afraid he may kill the innocent young girl if he is suspected the cops are close to him. Defying the FBI's request to keep silent, her mother appeared in a TV interview and revealed that her daughter was already a victim of 2 kidnaps and rapes. Firstly, she was kidnapped, imprisoned, and raped by a 70-year-old Saudi man. The old Saudi man kidnapped her at the tender age of 7 and imprisoned her in his house for 10 years. Whatever evil that wicked Arab man had done to Rani's daughter had been justified by an Islamic Sharia court in Jeddah in the name of their religion, which allows marriage of underage female children. Secondly, the mother of the mentally delayed young woman mentioned that her daughter was also kidnapped, imprisoned, and raped by another evil Muslim man. He was a famous Bollywood film director. Her kidnappers, detainers, and rapists met with a violent end. One of them was murdered by another inmate while he was in remand waiting for his final trial for kidnapping and raping another young Indian girl who was just 11 years old. The second captor committed suicide to escape public scandal, imminent incarceration, and hanging to death. At the end of the interview, the Indian mother demanded capital punishment for the third kidnapper, detainer, and rapist of her beloved daughter. What troubled Rani Krishna and made her extremely angry was the outrageous fact that the third evil kidnapper of her daughter happened to be meeting the same sort of description as her previous 2 kidnappers. He is more or less like them in his religion, age, and social status. He is also a Muslim man, a married man, has children, and is 20 years older than her daughter. Everything about him made her Hindu mother Rani hate him with bitterness. In particular, his religious background made her despise him even more. She could not believe that a married man with 3 children would leave his wife and children to go for a girl old enough to be his daughter. Even her innocent daughter looks at him just as her father's brother and still calls her kidnapper Uncle Jimmy. She wondered how that shameless Indian man decided to have sex with a girl who called him my uncle. Therefore, the extremely outraged Indian mother said in front of the police that if the American criminal court did not issue a sentence of death upon him or kept him under lock and key for life, she would take justice into her own hands and flay his skin alive and burn his defiled body with unquenchable fire that can light the biggest area in downtown. Among all 3 of her daughter's evil kidnappers, Rani Krishna discovered that the third one was the worst. He is the only one who succeeded in fully brainwashing her daughter. Sadly, her daughter loves the man so much she almost worships him. He made her believe that he is her handsome Arab Qais and she is like his beautiful Indian Layla, or both of them are like the lovers Romeo and Juliet. It saddened her that her daughter had not stopped crying since she was rescued from her kidnapper by the cops. She begged the police on her knees and pleaded with many tears with her mother to intervene and save her handsome lover from going to jail. She even told her mother that she would kill herself if her lover was not released and allowed to live with her the way they had been doing for over a year. The only other thing Rani cannot deal with is the fact that he has fathered a female child with her daughter. The baby girl made it hard for Rahul Patel to accept her daughter for marriage. Nevertheless, he said that he is still prepared to marry Aphrodite Krishna Khan, although she is not a virgin. However, he said he is in no uncertain terms not going to accept the baby girl, suggesting that the illegitimate baby girl of the apprehended kidnapper and rapist should be given up for adoption in India. Then and only then, he can get married to the second-hand girl Aphrodite. For Rahul, Aphrodite is now just like an old used car. Moreover, he said that he does not want to bring up someone's bastard female child. Rani appreciated the great sacrifice that her late sister's son was prepared to make, and so tried by all means to convince her daughter to forsake her illegitimate daughter. Amrita Khan became extremely furious when she heard her fiancé Rahul called her daughter a bastard female child, and her mother labeled her an illegitimate daughter. At this stage, she revealed a hidden secret that her detained Muslim husband had warned her of the danger of revealing to anyone. She challenged her Indian fiancé and Hindu mother and confessed that she had married her lover Uncle Jimmy according to Islamic Sharia law. She even produced the marriage certificate that had been issued by the imam of the mosque. Then, she claimed she had not allowed her lover to have sex with her or even hug her body or kiss her lips until he agreed first to marry her. Therefore, Amrita Khan has demanded Rahul and her mother apologize to her for calling her daughter a bastard female child. This new development complicated the situation for Amrita instead of resolving it. Her mother immediately informed the police about the secret marriage of her daughter with her kidnapper, rapist, and detainer. The police knew that the kidnapper had a Muslim wife, and this new information meant he has another wife at the same time. It appeared that he is practicing his Islamic Sharia rights by having 2 wives in the USA. It is unlawful for any person to have more than 1 wife in America. Now the cops have one more serious charge to add to his list of crimes. The police found out that the kidnapper was taking money from his victim every month and giving it to his first Muslim wife. The bank records of Aphrodite's account showed a monthly transfer of $10,000 to the account of her kidnapper. The money would inevitably end up in the bank account of his first wife. Amrita's account activity also showed that she was spending heavily on her kidnapper. It is starting to look like a Stockholm Syndrome scenario. The police also discovered that the kidnapper had ceased working as a cab driver a long time ago and was entirely dependent upon his victim. Those new findings indicated that the captor was exploiting his victim financially and causing her to spend money on him and his other wife and children. Those new findings have been summarily added to his increasingly long rap sheet, which made Uncle Jimmy's Islamic crimes appear more serious than that of Osama bin Laden. Chapter 59. Wrong generalization due to religious intolerance. The case of the so-called mentally retarded Indian girl and the assumed evil Muslim kidnapper, rapist, and detainer took over 6 months to come to trial and just 6 hours for the American jury and judge to reach a verdict. Rani Krishna's attorney failed to prove a bona fide case of mental disability at the time the cabbie Jamal Khan alias Uncle Jimmy met and subsequently fell in love and married her daughter. The police who had arrested Aphrodite Krishna Khan when she was living in the apartment of her cousin and his white girlfriend and the FBI team were both able to tender qualified testimonies to the effect that Aphrodite did not suffer from diminished mental capacity and was highly aware of her surroundings. They testified as to her condition during her previous arrest, interrogation, and detention. The psychological tests conducted on her indicated that her responses were very childish and that she was sometimes confused, but that in itself did not conclusively point to mental retardation. The inability to cope with many of the situations she had encountered was attributed to language and cultural differences and the fact she was just a few days a landed female immigrant in the States. The psychiatrist assigned to her case rendered a diagnosis explaining that her cognitive skills and her coping skills were indicative of poor formal and aesthetic education, compounded with limited positive social conditioning and abuse during her formative years. He went on record to say that such behavior is common among oppressed and abused Muslim women who came to live in the States. Therefore, the medical report showed that the detained Indian girl Aphrodite Khan suffered from a form of treatable mental arrest and categorically eliminated other categories, such as mental retardation and autism. The footnotes also included observations of her ability to learn despite her childhood trauma and subsequent emotional disabilities. In the end, the jury has to take into account the professional diagnosis of a veteran psychiatrist and render a verdict of not guilty. With the mental capacity of Aphrodite established, the charges of kidnap and rape became irrelevant in the case. The court summarily dismissed the charges of deception and financial exploitation. Her lover, Mr. Jamal Khan, is however found guilty of the charge of bigamy. Polygamy is the act or condition of a man marrying another woman while still being lawfully married to a second woman, which is illegal in the United States of America. Such a crime is punishable either by a fine, imprisonment, or both. As a consequence of that, Jamal Khan is sentenced to 2 years imprisonment and a $10,000 fine. The court nullified his second marriage contract with his young mistress Aphrodite Krishna Khan, but his love affair with her does not contravene any legal laws of the land. In addition, their daughter inherited the parents' right for a female child to be a naturalized citizen and have the same legal status as any naturalized child born in the United States. The decision of the court is a strong blow to Rani Krishna. She expected that the American court would convict the third captor and rapist of her daughter with all charges laid against him and sentence him to death by lethal injection protocol or life imprisonment without a chance of parole. At first, she wanted to appeal the case, but her American lawyer advised her against it. He simply told her it was pointless and it would be just a waste of time and money without positive results. Aphrodite, on the other hand, paid the $10,000 fine imposed on her handsome lover and promised to appeal his 2-year sentence. Aphrodite's decision to appeal the case alarmed her mother. Her Hindu mother saw her reaction as a challenge to her authority and showed a serious problem in her daughter's judgment. She could see that her daughter was still emotionally attached to the wicked Muslim man Uncle Jimmy and realized that she needed to do something before he was released from jail. He has already served 6 months of his 2-year sentence. With good behavior, he can be out in less than 8 months. The Hindu woman Rani does not want her adopted Muslim daughter to spend the rest of her life with a man who has another wife and children and who is 20 years her senior. She especially does not want her daughter mixed up with a bad Muslim guy. As with all Indian mothers, Rani Krishna resolved to nip the problem in the bud. She expected Aphrodite would thank her later when she came to her senses. Rani wants to get her daughter married to the educated Rahul Patel as soon as possible. But then she knew and understood that her stubborn daughter was not going to marry anyone as long as she was still infatuated with the wicked Muslim man and had custody of his female child. Working towards a permanent solution, she decided to hoodwink her daughter. She discussed her plan with her daughter's Indian fiancé Rahul and he approved of it. According to the plan, Rani should lie to her daughter by telling her that during her incarceration in India, she met an imprisoned Muslim woman from Mumbai who knew where her biological mother was staying in that cosmopolitan city. Then, she must tell her daughter that she wants to take her to India to visit her Muslim mother Rayhana Khan. If Amrita Khan agrees to return to Mumbai, Rahul has to accompany them. Once in India, she should put up Aphrodite's female child for adoption to a Hindu ashram, Christian orphanage, or any Indian family willing to accept her. Her plan required Rahul and Amrita to be married in a Hindu wedding ceremony immediately after they reached India. Although Rahul approved of the idea, he stipulated a condition. He wants his fiancée Aphrodite Krishna Khan to change her first name to Hindu and take his last name, which is also Hindu. This made Rani extremely happy and hence she chose the Hindu name Pooja for her daughter. Somehow Rani Krishna succeeded in convincing her daughter to travel with her to India to meet her biological mother. But, instead of Mumbai, their trip ended up in New Delhi. As soon as they arrived in India, Rani revealed to her daughter what was in her heart. Amrita refused to comply and threatened to return with her daughter to the States and cut ties with her Hindu mother forever. Even so, Rani ignores her threat and is determined to go ahead with her plan. She told her that as long as she is living she will never allow her daughter to live with a Muslim man without a recognized matrimonial relationship. She said further that it is a great shame among the Indian community in the USA for an Indian girl to live with a man without a marriage bond. When Amrita insisted on returning to the States and living with her Muslim lover, Rani put her foot down and declared that she was never to return to America again. As with all generalizations, religious intolerance, bigotry, and racism lead us all down the same road of hate for those who may look or think differently from us. Many of us harbor prejudice, which in itself is neither good nor bad. That is how we naturally compartmentalize things around us. That is how we know whether we prefer spicy food or mild food, and which types of clothes we love to put on. What is critical then, is what we do with that prejudice and how we put it into action. It is perfectly fine to be prejudiced, but it is ultimately damaging to discriminate based on that prejudice. Such is the mental state of the Hindu mother Rani Krishna towards Islam and Muslims. Her mindset cannot allow her to see a Muslim man as the best choice for her adopted Muslim daughter. It is inconceivable that her daughter's best days were spent and shared with a Muslim man. She would rather prefer her daughter had spent her best days with the devil than with a married Muslim man who has another wife and 3 children. Ironically, her daughter, immature as many may say, does not hate all Muslims indiscriminately, although all the evils that descended upon her originated with Muslim men and are justified by authentic Islamic religious texts. Therefore, the obsessive love for her adopted Muslim daughter and her religious intolerance and hatred towards Islam and Muslims led the Hindu woman Rani Krishna to commit terrible sins against her daughter Aphrodite and granddaughter Rayhana. First, she took the so-called illegitimate female child by force away from her Muslim daughter and gave her away to a Christian orphanage to offer for adoption. It is part of the same nun's residence where she and her daughter had spent 3 days hiding from Muslim terrorists before they fled to Germany. The Hindu mother made her Muslim daughter write a check of $50,000 to pay to the Christian residents as compensation for the evils her controversial words during the beauty pageant in London about Islam had caused to the 3 innocent nuns. They had brought brutal rapes upon the 2 Malayali nuns Nancy and Annie and led to the untimely death of the 3rd nun Mary, who got murdered by the Muslim terrorists. Mother and daughter felt so sad and wept from the depth of their hearts when they learned that their Good Samaritan 2 nuns got disqualified from their honorable positions by the church because they lost their virginity. After that terrorist catastrophe that led to the brutal rape, the rejected 2 nuns, Nancy and Annie, ran away from the church, and no one knew where they went and what are they doing now. An unconfirmed rumor in the church said that they had joined a brothel house in Bombay and became perpetual prostitutes. To atone for her daughter's unpardonable sins of blasphemy against Islam and committing adultery with the 3rd evil Muslim captor, Uncle Jimmy, the Hindu mother ordered her adopted daughter to issue another check of $50,000 to the Christian orphanage for agreeing to keep her bastard baby and to raise her as a Christian virgin nun. However, no matter what the Hindu mother's motives behind her charitable actions, they have deeply hurt her daughter so much. Amrita Khan could not believe that the woman whom she loved so much and considered to be her real mother could inflict such pain in her heart by depriving her of her baby girl. Second, after getting rid of the so-called unwanted female child, Rani began to prepare for the happy wedding of her daughter. Once again, she has officially changed the name of her daughter against her wish from Aphrodite to Pooja. Howbeit, at the last moment, the Indian fiancé Rahul came up with new demands. He informed his mother's sister that since his fiancée Pooja had lost her virginity and was used by other 3 Muslim men before him, he demanded a heavy dowry as financial compensation for marrying an unvirginal Indian bride. He demanded $10 million be deposited into his account before the marriage could take place. He also wants ownership of Pooja's $5 million house, which she bought in America, transferred into his name. His second demand is based on the fact that being a Hindu, he has agreed to marry a Muslim girl. According to him, all Muslims are his sworn enemies because they killed his beloved father at the Taj Mahal Hotel in Mumbai, and also Muslim terrorists brutally murdered and raped his innocent Hindu mother. Finally, he said since his fiancée is an illiterate Muslim girl who had never been to school and he is an educated boy and soon he is going to be a medical doctor who has a foreign education, he wants an additional $5 million as a dowry. Therefore, his dowry has to be a total of $15 million and ownership of Pooja's house in the States. The Hindu mother Rani Krishna understood the concern of her late sister's son, but she does not like his huge financial compensation demands. She accused him of taking advantage of the situation. She told him that she was prepared to pay some dowry to him, but not the big amount that he had asked for. Negotiations then pared that figure down to $10 million and a legal share in the American house of his soon-to-be Indian bride. According to the agreement, $5 million must be paid before the wedding and 5 afterward. Likewise, his name should be added as co-owner of the house in question. Rahul threatened to divorce Pooja if the balance of the dowry was not paid or the equity in the house was not given to him. Against her wish, his fiancée Pooja Krishna Khan transferred $5 million from her overseas account into Rahul's. In India, the girl's father is supposed to pay the dowry and not the groom's family. It is not uncommon for the dowry to be paid in installments. If the girl's father refuses or fails to pay the rest of the dowry after the marriage ceremony, the bride will either be sent home or be involved in a kitchen accident and burned to ashes by her mother-in-law. Her evil in-laws will claim she has either committed suicide or the cylinder exploded on her. The Indian Miss